Now, this story has changed hands a few times. However, some of the records, at least the ones not still currently sealed by the government, have partially confirmed some of the events. In the state of Alaska, there was a small town named Anchorhead. It's the kind of town where if anything unusual were to happen, within 10 minutes the entire town would be talking about it. But for the most part, it was just your average town. However, that all changed on March 7th, 2016. During the early morning, a strange object with an odd glow was spotted by the locals high above the town center. The unknown object landed in the wilderness just outside of the town. Science teams from all over the lower 48 went to examine it, from the U.S. Geological Survey to even Los Alamos National Labs. Despite months of research experiments, the object could not be identified, though it was theorized to be some kind of meteorite. Strangely, although the object had been on the ground for months, it was still giving off heat. George Hanlon, the mayor of Anchorhead, after some arm twisting from the town selectmen, decided to convert the area into a makeshift tourist attraction to revitalize the small town's struggling economy. Visitors from all over the state of Alaska went to Anchorhead to see the Molten Meteor. In fact, it attracted so much attention, the state was considering directly funding the construction of a more permanent attraction. It was on the verge of becoming a state landmark, and Anchorhead was in the midst of an economic boom. But as it's always said, all good things must come to an end. On February 6, 2017, a man named Alan Jackson was found huddled in the snow near the meteorite, frostbitten and babbling incoherently. Now, this wasn't the first time drifters had camped out in the area around the meteorite, as it was still giving off heat, even in the dead of winter. Some of the locals believed it had something to do with what they saw a few nights earlier. A strange glow had filled the wilderness outside of Anchorhead. Although it could be seen, its color couldn't exactly be described. Some described it as an odd combination of red and green, whereas others found it utterly impossible to perceive. According to the locals, ever since that night, it would glow. These events only made the meteorite more interesting to tourists. As a result, the town looked the other way regarding it. This attitude changed 2 months later when a group of locals decided to camp out near the meteorite. Around 1 a.m., Megan Baldwin was found wandering into the town, dazed and half nude. She was taken to the emergency room, and after being stabilized, she told them what had happened. She explained, after hearing about what happened to Alan Jackson, her and her friends decided to camp out near the meteorite, just to see what would happen. After the sun went down, its glow became more visible as usual. After nothing unusual had happened, the group decided to go to sleep around 11:30 p.m. She said that around an hour later, the glow had changed. This was reportedly seen in the town nearby. A few described it as something between blue and yellow. Not green as would be expected, but an odd kind of silver. According to local news sources outside the town, Megan's friends were never found. Because they were people who lived in the community their whole lives rather than drifters, the town took it far more seriously. People of the town no longer cared about how much money was being made, they just wanted their children safe. And so, the mayor had the site closed to prevent any more accidents. From then on, it was under police guard. After a few weeks, however, it was reported that the officer put in charge of guarding the site never returned home. He was never found. After the disappearance of the campers and a police officer, the mayor realized the town couldn't handle the situation. That's when the state and later the federal government stepped in. The governor ordered the National Guard to fence the area entirely, backed up by the Alaskan State Defense Force. Meanwhile, science teams from DARPA and Los Alamos National Labs were brought into the town to examine the meteorite further. Anchorhead's economic boom had come to a screeching halt. Although local news sources were never given a clear picture as to the nature of the disappearances, people were already starting to draw conclusions. And as a result, people were avoiding the town completely. By this point, longtime residents had even left, and Anchorhead had become a ghost town. Now, the records for this are sketchy at best, as most ended up being sealed, but from what I could gather, on March 20th, 2018, something had happened in Anchorhead. In the nearby town of Sheffington, a strange light could be seen coming from the direction of the town. Sounds of shrieks and gunfire could also be heard. According to the resident of Sheffington, whom I was able to actually get into contact with, after all the commotion the night before, he went to check on Anchorhead. According to him, he couldn't find anyone, not even animals or pets, and the meteorite sat unguarded amidst a field of spent bullet casings. There was no sign of anybody. However, on his way home, he found someone wandering down the road. When they'd finally calmed down, they told him they're all gone. It took them far away. After that, from what I was able to learn, the federal government took control of the area entirely. They blocked all the roads leading into Anchorhead, and even went to the lengths of erasing it from the maps and the GPS system. Anchorhead essentially no longer exists, and due to federal intervention, the ultimate fate of the Molten Meteor is unknown. On October 7th, 2018, a mysterious light was spotted in the sky over Daytona Beach, Florida.